o'clock, May 1st, 2023. Regular board meeting. Can I get a roll call?
Darrell Anderson.
Here.
Beverly Raymond. Here. Christopher Smith. Ellen Clark. Here. Richard Wyckoff. Jerry LeBeau. Melvin Getwood. We have a quorum.
Debbie, can I get a pledge again, please?
Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for our attention. Hearings of 10 and 11, Economic Development Corporation Board Member meeting. That you bless us all in this special way. That we give our business of this corporation people. Wholeheartedly and collectively for the betterment of this corporation. In Jesus' name I pray. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all have received a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting. Review them, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion passed. Presentation, none. Communication, none. Speaker, none. Reports, first, CEO report.
Good evening. Good evening, directors. In your packet, you should have found my written report for this month, and I'll go through and touch upon some of the highlights in order. For this month, we got underway with budget preparation for the FY23-24 budget. Long-timers tell me that the process started about a month earlier than normal and what we were expecting. So we quickly pivoted from the things we were working on, namely strategic planning, and switched over to starting to put together a preliminary budget, which was due, as a matter of fact, 5 o'clock Friday. What I anticipate, given the schedule that's been published by the city, we will have workshops in June to present the preliminary budget to the board, start receiving your feedback into that. And then another one, if you're so inclined, in July, which will be about half a month ahead of when the budget is scheduled to be finalized, again, in accordance with the current schedule. So if you just have those things in the back of your mind, budget workshops in June and again in July in conjunction with your monthly meetings at that time.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you said that the preliminary budget was due on Friday.
Correct.
So you guys submitted that without board review. We did not have the opportunity to take a look at that budget before you guys submitted it.
There was nothing to review. The only thing that was submitted was any potential information on where we might go in terms of staffing. And that was, again, preliminary. The emphasis is it's understood by the financial folks that the board has not reviewed that, nothing to present to them at this point in time. I think the meat on the bone is the June and July workshops, because at that time, now things are being submitted and finalized into the city. What was submitted the other day, like I say, was what I'm labeling preliminary, which was just really a fine-tuning of the current budget, which obviously is already approved, with some very high level what potential things might be added, and then those things will be brought to the board for your workshops.
Okay, let me express my concern on that. As treasurer of the organization, I need to be aware of what it is sure I review it, put my eyes on it, send a note to the board to tell them I took a look at it and I'm okay with it. Now, in terms of the published schedule for the workshops, typically we hold budget and finance committee meetings before we actually do a budget workshop with the board. Okay, and I would like to continue with that, unless you have objections, okay? I would like to continue with the fact that we hold those committee meetings, so that as a finance committee, we get to review the budget, put in the things that the board is concerned about. I understand that you have things you're concerned about, but make sure that we're addressing what the board wants us to do before we go to the body to tell them what the budget looks like.
I couldn't concur more. As chair of that particular committee, you're certainly welcome to schedule a meeting. My humble suggestion would be perhaps sometimes mid-month in both months to provide yourself, your committee, enough time to disseminate to the full board anything that comes out of that, so that leading up to those workshops, just as you articulated, Madam Treasurer, the full board can have peace of mind that the committee has taken a look at things on a preliminary basis and spoken into it.
Okay, now your recommendation in terms of mid-month, you're talking about mid-May and mid-June?
Correct. So that you, again, leading up to a workshop in the June meeting and a workshop in the July meeting.
Okay, I'll get those dates to you.
Mr. Stover, on this budget preparation that the city has y'all ahead of time, what were they asking?
To get to them, again, just preliminary information in terms of what does it look like your current fiscal year is going to finish up, even though obviously we've got lots of months left to go. And at a high level, what are you anticipating in terms of anything relative to staffing, any major changes, anything like that? If that wasn't the case, it was just easy to just kind of focus, sir, on, okay, where do we look like spending is going to go for the rest of this fiscal year? And we're not anticipating any anomalies, so the budget that's currently in place should be A-OK in terms of as we proceed, and that's what we presented to them.
And how long did that take? Out of the ordinary?
We started working on that around middle of this month, and we submitted everything about 4 o'clock Friday.
And all you had is one item to add to it?
No, I'm not sure if we're on the same page. I'm not saying there's one item to add to it. You have to go through and look at all of your current spending. We have to work with the city and get current reports, and as you all know, that's typically runs a little bit behind, and then project for the remaining amount of time in the fiscal year. So it's not a one thing, it's, again, looking at an overall budget and putting numbers together.
Okay.
Questions? Okay, going over to the next item, quick update on the overall strategic plan. As I just mentioned, we shifted focus in April to start working on the things budget-wise that the city was requesting. So that put a hamper on our progress on the strategic plan. However, enough progress had been made to give enough clarity on potential organizational alignment, and I had promised you all when I embarked upon this that the plan would lead to an organizational alignment around the strategic plan. And as I mentioned in my report, it will also be important that the organization align itself properly industry-wise. So as we lead up to the committee meetings that the treasurer just mentioned, as well as the workshops, fully anticipate that we'll have that meat on the bone, if you will. Even though that's only one component, obviously, organizational alignment is a very important component. I will have enough information for you that both the committee as well as the full board will be able to kind of look at where we're projecting ahead to the future. Yes, ma'am.
Right, I have a comment. Okay, on our strategic plan, for some reason, I was under the impression that we were gonna try to get it done by May. And I understand that things happen and we push that back. But now it seems as though we're jamming ourselves up against the timeline. Because of the fact that, okay, we as a board have yet to see the actual strategic plan. We had a high-level overview of what was going to be included, but we still have not seen that plan. Once we approve the plan has to go over for city council to see the plan. And so I'm a little bit concerned as to what our timeline is going to look like, especially since we're going to use this for our budget, which is going to be due in July.
In mid-July. I fully anticipate that in draft format, when you assemble your committee for its mid-May meeting, we'll have enough information that, at least as far as staffing, not individual line items, we're a little bit ways before we have to worry about that. But in terms of the big picture, there'll be enough information that we can kind of just get an idea where we're headed as we move up to that June workshop. And I fully anticipate that, okay, we now have enough information where we can figure out where we're headed as it relates, big picture-wise, on staffing. So, no, it's not what I would have liked. When I embarked upon this, and just keep in mind that the strategic plan was my idea, not something imposed upon me, but I fully did not anticipate that we would be sitting here on May 1st and not have moved to the point that you just described, where we've already voted on it and moving towards implementation. That said, all you can do is move as quickly as you can, as best as you can.
Okay, I understand that, but we have been waiting on our strategic plan to figure out our path forward as to what we do with our business part, what do we do with our present building, and where we're going. And that's going to have a lot to do with how we structure our budget.
Correct.
Okay, so how are we going to work to resolve these issues? Because we're going to have some of that information in order for us to put together a viable budget.
Absolutely. And there are going to be numbers attached with each of the 10 strategic priorities that the board approved. And those numbers, although preliminary as we work our way towards final, will be what your committee uses to start to get their arms around where we're headed in terms of overall finances for 23-24. So I repeat, moving as fast as humanly possible. Because I want to be done with it as well, as much as you want to get your hands around on it. We're both on the same page, Madam Treasurer.
Okay, so going back to our timeline, mid-May, we're gonna have a committee meeting.
Right.
In June, we're gonna have a committee meeting, okay?
Yes.
So,
And in between those two, I'm sorry to be cut you off, a workshop, the first workshop.
okay, we're gonna have a first workshop in between them. Okay, so to tie the timeline down, when we do our first committee meeting,
Preliminary draft,
we will have that preliminary.
where you
draft.
have some preliminary numbers, and keep in mind that you're now speaking into it, so there may be some fine tuning. First workshop coincide with finalization.
I'm good.
Pre-finalization, you wouldn't want me to say that because you're just then seeing it, there may be feedback. So let's just assume, beyond any shadow of a doubt, July is frozen, but the June workshop gives us all enough to know where we're headed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Mary, on this here, you're talking about staffing, and she's talking about budget. I didn't quite understand your answer to her. When is the high-level strategic plan going to be finished?
By the time of the June workshop.
It'll be finished, complete.
The draft will be finished and presented to you all. I don't want to say final, because final requires a vote and we're moving on towards implementation. But I'm assuming that your question is, when will a final draft, if you will, it's a oxymoron, but when will a completed draft be in your hands? That would be at the workshop, but I'm also committed to Madam Treasurer, is that without it having been wordsmithed, you won't hold that against me, there'll be enough there for your committee in mid-May to start to go through, okay, see where we're headed, see where these numbers are, so forth and so on. I'll take that feedback if there's any moving towards that track.
Okay, you just said taking numbers. You're talking numbers as far as what you want. But we want to know about the business park, we want to know about the press building. When are you going to have a plan for this? Same time?
The strategic plan includes 10 strategic priorities, one of which happens to be entrepreneurship in the press building. Another one happens to be the 3 industrial parks. There's 8 others. You've heard them ad nauseum. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of breaking down what is it for each category at a high level in terms of what we're looking at in terms of finances. Is it defined? No, but there's enough. What I'm telling Madam Treasurer, there would be enough there where there can at least be an intelligent conversation about getting ready for the workshop. Other questions? Speaking of entrepreneurship in the press building, as we move closer to formally launching our entrepreneurship program, I've begun to formulate the partnerships that will be needed in order for the program's overall success. 2 such strategic partners will be the Small Business Development Center associated with Lamar State College, Port Arthur, as well as the Service Corps retired executives, otherwise known as SCORE, in their Houston offices. Both entities are very excited about the prospect of working with the community's budding entrepreneurs, and having run 3 of these organizations, 3 of these support centers in different stops. I know how important it is to bring as many stakeholders and partners to the table to be of assistance to small businesses and startups and getting them going. To borrow a phrase, it takes a village to produce a successful small business. These 2 entities that I mentioned, SBDC and SCORE, they'll primarily be focused on programming as it relates to providing business plan development assistance to our entrepreneurs, accessing capital, financial services, human resources, training and mentoring, just to mention a few things. Switching gears from entrepreneurship, back at the beginning of the year, as Treasurer Clarkson requested assistance, and once again, a thing that I wouldn't have guessed would be taking so long, an inventory of all the assets in the press building was undertaken. I'm glad to say that finally wrapped that up, and that spreadsheet is a part of your packet. We come in just shy of $1 million in total assets, which speaks to, as I have said ad nauseum, over-designed, overbuilt, over-accessorized, but it's where it is now, and now it's about moving it towards functionality and providing a good environment for our budding entrepreneurs. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with the SBDC, but I am not familiar with SCORE. Okay, so you're going to have to explain a little bit more to me as to who they are,
Absolutely.
what they do,
Absolutely.
and what is basically going to be the process for how we're going to get them to get ready for the people in our press building, since they're located in Houston.
Very good. Specifically on SCORE, like their name says, this is a group of folks that are across the country. It is retired executives that have decided to give back to small businesses, and there are SCORE offices, again, across the country. We happen to be fortunate in that we have 3 offices in the Houston area. Part of their territory covers from the Louisiana border over to Matagorda County, and they are all prepared to have their office hours, if you will, and to answer your question in terms of how they, as well as the SBDC, interface, programming. So picture that we have X amount of entrepreneurs in the Entrepreneurship Center. As a part of being in the program, you mandatorily have to participate in the programming, whether it be HR or finances or marketing or business plan development, so forth and so on. Those classes are ongoing, and it is these entities that are coming alongside and providing that on a pro bono basis. So that is how they plug into an entrepreneurship center. It's really, we've never seen one of these in operation. It's really pretty cool to see folks get that type of exposure that they could not possibly on their own raise the type of capital just to be able to have that type of exposure. And they're getting it from subject matter experts.
Okay, now I understand when you say that it's mandatory that they participate in these training sessions.
For the entrepreneurs.
That wasn't included in our original lease agreements, was it? So we're gonna have to go back and to revise our lease agreements with those tenants to include this, because otherwise I don't know how we're gonna make it mandatory.
Good question. Not everyone that's already under lease, it would necessarily classify as a startup. However, we certainly will make the program available to them. And if they want it, it's not necessary that they have to, obviously leases are going to expire. If they want to come under the program, they're welcome to do that. Like I say, some of them might say, well, hey, I've been bumping my head against this and we've been halfway successful, but if they're going to bring in this kind of programming and make it available to us, hey, I'll be glad to sign up tonight and do a new lease. And again, it's not going to change their outgrowth, if you will. But yes, they certainly will have that opportunity to do that. But some may opt out and say, well, and it's not, again, for those that are already there, they may not be deemed as startups.
Okay, now a couple of other things. In terms of the inventory, I am so glad you guys finally finished that. But I want you guys to know y'all are in a different world from what I'm used to. 6 months to do an inventory just blows my mind, but I'm learning patience whether I want to or not. Okay, I took a look at this inventory list and I got a good idea about how many TVs we got. Okay, but we have a number of equipment that is under lease contract, such as copiers. So when I take a look at this, I don't have the farthest idea as to how many copiers are in that building. And it may be because of the fact that it's not our equipment, it wasn't included on the inventory, but it is equipment that we're paying for. And like I said, if we got 10 copiers over there, you know, guys, we probably could take that contract and redo it because we don't need 10 copiers over there. But I can't tell that by looking at this inventory.
Sure. We have what is there now and what we're going to have between the co-working space and the future startups. So what may look like an overabundance today may be undermanned in the future. I think the copiers are acknowledged, and there's be not just spelled out, so we may have to go back and just break things a little more granular. Because I just physically know where they're located. And so just from the description, yeah, that's one of our copiers, but it may get a little too esoteric, so let me just take a look at that. But your point's well taken, but I would just ask you to remember that when we populate that, like I say, what seems like an overabundance as we sit here on May 1st may be just the right amount once we start getting all the startups in there.
One other thing, okay, the final amount of that press building, did it come in at $10.8 million, or is it $10.8 million plus this?
The 10.8 was just construction, I believe. I'll defer to Ms. Muller.
10.8 included a partial piece of this, which is the furniture, and some of the equipment that's in here, but not all of it. So it's not broken down by what's included in it. So 10.8 did include a big chunk of this.
Okay, so when do we think we're going to have a final total on that building? When we go to the public and tell the public that we constructed this press building, and we tell them that we're going to have an incubator program here, and we're going to do entrepreneurship here. Once they walk in that building and they see the way that building looks, everybody is going to want to know the final total on that building, including me, okay? So when do we think we're gonna have the final total?
We can certainly go back and break this down over what was purchased within our construction cost and what was purchased outside of that to get a final number.
Thank you.
So when did you start working on this program, or this with SCORE, EDC, and Moore College? And with SCORE, do we have a contract with them?
No, we won't need a contract in place that we're buying the services pro bono. In terms of when I started working on it, when I showed up, because I came here with that experience. These are folks that I've worked with at 3 other stops, so it's just a continuation as far as I'm concerned.
Was that, when we put last month we put a committee together, is this conflict with the committee that Bev is on? You don't know?
That was a naming rights.
About that?
No, we have put 3 committees in place last month. One was the naming right committee, one was the press building, we already had a press building committee, and we had 2 of our members that was not present at the time, we could no longer serve. And then every time we replaced with 2 more people. And we have not got, I was getting ready to give everybody opportunity to ask their questions. But I was wondering, we don't need the press building committee, we want to meet regarding these type of issues. Because the main reason why it was put together after the construction was completed was to look at ways to leasing and bring people in and things of that sort. But right now we have how many vacancies? What about the distro and the conference room and different vacancies that still exist? And I understand there has been a hole now for like 2 or 3 months. And so the reason why we need committee is we come together and find out ways that we can accommodate the vacancies that are over there.
The vacancies will be taken care of as a part of the overall entrepreneurship program, which has yet to be laid out to you in full, because it's a part of the strategic plan that I'm working as fast as I can to get to you. So I don't see it as that there's vacancies. I see that there is an incubator is in place, and now it's waiting for its program. In terms of scheduling a meeting, I just remind you, I'm not a member of any of these committees. Resource, I don't schedule the committee meetings. That's a function of the members of the committee themselves.
Well, we had a situation where I called you regarding a committee meeting, where I needed to meet with one of the staff members. And you told me at the time, this is another committee, it's not the president of the committee. But again, you have to have access to come together, to have a meeting, along with you, because it's not about just the committee, but we want to work collectively together to make this work. So it's not about us, we cannot meet by ourselves without you having your input of what you would like to see. And the committee comes together as a whole. So again, we need to, I've asked you before, when we schedule a meeting, the naming right committee is on hold right now, but the youth program is coming up. And of course, it's coming, they on your report, and we'll talk about that at that time. But right now, we're talking about the press building committee. We need to meet with you so we can discuss the changes that you would like to make to the press building. I would like to, if you could have met with us before you brought this report. But until that didn't happen, I understand, but we still want to meet with you regarding the press building going forward. And what we would like to see and what we'd like to bring back to the board to discuss.
And understood. When I have an understanding of what it is that you want to have as a resource, which you just, very well articulated as it relates to this one out of the 4 or 5 committees that you mentioned, as you and I discussed earlier, I will endeavor as much as I can to find time for that meeting. I would just ask all of you to remember that I want to be a resource to you. I am a resource to you. When I'm in a meeting, I'm also not writing a strategic plan. And that can then bump up against other timelines. So again, fire up the clone machine. I'm trying to divvy up myself as well as the things that I have staff working on, all towards the goal of making sure that you get quality in terms of the overall things that you're looking for. So it's all four committees, and you need a resource. I certainly will try and make myself available. I would just humbly ask that we try and strike a balance. I may be trying to answer questions that I can't answer because the answers are still waiting to be crafted, but I can certainly give it my best shot in terms of where I think things are going.
Where you like, and you have time to allow a staff member to meet with us, so we can know exactly what's the status of the president. I understand you appointed Crystal in that position, so if you allow us time to meet with her, that would help be involved.
And I appreciate that. I think that in terms of starting up a resource and looking at big picture of where we're headed, that's probably best me sitting down with your various committees. If we collectively decide we need additional resources, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay. I have one more thing I want to ask. Okay, in terms of the SCORE and the SBDC coming in and providing those services, do we have an approximate timeline for when we're going to be conducting that? Do we know whether or not it's going to be in the middle of the year, the end of the year, the beginning of next year?
Madam Treasurer, programming is an ongoing thing. Those classes take place almost every week, depending on the subject. In terms of when would they commence? Whenever we launch the program, which is probably at this point late summer.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, of course, we're going to notify the tenants that are now residing there that they're going to have to take these mandatory classes, courses, or is this a...
And I just want to be very, very cautious. I don't want to scare anybody. It isn't automatically that a tenant that's in there now will be taking these, that will be offered to them. But if they don't, if somebody's in there and they've been in business 10 years, they don't consider themselves a startup. And they may think, well, I'm glad you're having that, but I'm good to go. I've got my own CPA, I've got my own lawyers, we're good. Doesn't affect them. Okay, thank you. Other question? Did you see?
No, I'm clear. I'm just listening and observing what's going on at this junction, but I think that I'm very clear on the questions that are being asked as well as the responses that are being given. But I do understand the business of a CEO and having time and not being able to delegate time to various committees when we want the committee meetings. So I think we need to probably work on that because it will take away from what you're doing if you're meeting with us all the time in subcommittee groups.
And I would just add, yes, sir, and probably not having the answers that are needed because I'm sitting in the committee meeting, so gathering information is needed, but I'm going to do my very best. I commit to you to try and strike a proper balance. Yes, sir.
Just maybe a suggestion in relation to our committees because, of course, we call them ourselves. So to expedite time, maybe we can meet as our committees and together what it is that we would like to see and present that to the CEO. Let the CEO go through that, and then we can maybe come together. After that will expedite some of the time if we put some stuff down, I believe.
And I think what you have suggested, Mr. Anderson, would give the CEO the opportunity to work with staff on those kind of things that are coming from the subcommittees, and then we could get a report that includes the staff and the CEO.
We need to have it all, of course, the press building, we probably can do that, but when we talk about the youth program, we don't know exactly what's in the process, we don't know the students who have been, I understand, already been chosen, their expertise in the area that they're working on, are going to class for, those type of things we need to get reported. If we can get the report, we can work from it. We need something to work with in regards, especially to the youth program. Now, of course, the native life, we can meet among ourselves to come up with something and present to you. But the youth program, we have to receive reports of where we are and where we need, how we're going to go forward regarding making sure that the students that has been chosen, they already been chosen already. And because we had, and the reason why we brought this committee to the board last month was because last year we had over 20 students and only 3 students out of 20 were retained. So that's the reason, when you see an issue, we as a board members are responsible to resolve that issue so it would not happen again. So that's the only reason why we brought that committee to the board. We have not had a youth committee before, but because of the issues we had in the past, that's the reason why I brought that to the board on this one.
Ms. Freeman, may I ask you a question? Did we have any established guidelines prior to bringing that committee forward?
And yes,
Okay. And the guidelines were not followed or?
no, we have not got a chance to meet, we have not met.
No, I'm talking about before you said this is the first time for this youth committee?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to have established guidelines, so I'm a little confused. You said that there were 20 people and only 3 people actually showed up last year or something? Okay, well, I'm clear on that, but I think that...
They were not placed in the field according to what the information I received. They were not placed in the field. Said that they had the program where they went to school for. So they was given jobs like basically around the city. It was not, we wanted to branch out to like industries and different other companies where out the school to work. Not just, and we talked about the last thing, PIC or the city, they're not going to retain them. They have no jobs anymore.
Yeah,
That's the reason for
I
why
think
it was
with-
expanded.
I think with a workforce like that, and Mr. Anderson can attest to that, we work with folks in the Cape building and we try to place individual students, etc. But I think that the key to the entire situation here is to have guidelines established and the protocols in place, and then I think it would eliminate some concerns.
And that's the reason why we want to put a committee in place for that reason.
Not to stay on this long, because I don't like long meetings for those that know me. But we do have some guidelines for that program. We just maybe need to get a copy of those, if we can get them in hand, so that those that don't know the guidelines can become familiar with those.
Okay, so we do have guidelines.
Yes.
Thank you, that answers my question.
That's the main issue. They're not probably implemented correctly.
I understand.
And that's what we're trying to work on.
I
to correct
understand,
the issue.
I understand the implementation phase.
Mr. Stokes, I had something I requested, copies of the revenue and expenditures of the press building made available, and I see it is there because Rachel done that. Will you provide information on that? Have
So
you looked at this?
it's on your agenda. It's a line item on your agenda. I mean, if you want to go out of order, right?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, moving along, update on financial related matters. Again, at nauseam, we were focused on budget the second half of the month that just finished. You have the most recent report in your packet. The city has closed out the month of February. March is still open. As we all sit here tonight, we do not have any invoices that are in the arrears. So go ahead to report that. One of the things that, in addition to strategic planning, that we had to just kind of temporarily set aside was continuing to collect and review potential vendors that will be providing the tools and platforms for accounts payable and purchasing. Again, want to be trying to get things and the dust settles budget-wise. We'll get back on track, and assuming that there's no other anomalies. We're still shooting for the timeline of selection, design, implementation, testing, and a January 2024 launch. So no change to that. We're going to try and quickly readjust to the lost time of shifting the budget schedule. Madam Treasurer.
Okay. During your explanation, you used accounts payable and invoices. When I used accounts payable last meeting, I was told it wasn't going to be accounts payable so much as it was going to be invoices.
Accounting.
Okay, so
Accounting.
it's going to be accounts payable
when we say accounting, folks kind of get a little nervous for that.
Okay, now my question is, okay, I understood why it was we were looking at this to begin with, because we had an issue with delinquent invoices. But from now, from what I understand and looking at your report, this is the second month where all of our invoices have been paid and up to date. So why do we want to continue to proceed down this road when I understand that you guys are supposed to be going for training for Tyler, which is the current system that the city uses. And at this time, I'm not aware of exactly what it is Tyler is going to provide us versus what it is we need to go out there and see. So my question is, are we going to be, we're not getting the cart before the horse, right?
Yes,
We're going to do a thorough evaluation, and we're going to make sure that we're not going to be provided this information by the city, and that Tyler does not have those capabilities before we go out there and spend some more money.
And I'm smiling at you as you're asking the question now, because I'm thinking the answer to the question is because it's what you would do in your career. You would have a plan B. So we're very happy that we're 2 months back to back, and oh joy. But it isn't going to cost us anything to continue to evaluate, other than, obviously time. But it's not going to cost us any money to continue to evaluate, just in case we need to stay on that original plan A. And unless you tell me otherwise, I think that's what you would have done back in the day.
Okay. And one other thing, just for clarification, okay, when is the initial training for Tyler going to be conducted?
I haven't heard anything different from January. Now, our folks are going to the user training this week, this present week. I think what you're referencing was the internal user training that was going to be led by the city. Don't have exact dates as you and I sit here right now, but I have not heard anything different from June. And I'll continue to inquire. So that's what we're working off of. Update on workforce and youth development.
Wait a minute, before we go past that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is this where we want to discuss the numbers on the press building?
We can, you have it as an agenda item.
Would you have this as an agenda item?
I thought maybe I'm misunderstanding. So I stand corrected. It's not there.
Okay.
So, yes, in answer to your question.
So we go back to the press building?
Yes, and President, I'm sorry, I thought that it was there, so good reason for asking. Let's go double back and address that.
Okay, I asked for the revenue and expenditure of the press building be made available, and it was. And can you provide some information to the board on both expenditures and?
Beyond the numbers, are you asking me in terms of generalities where we're headed?
Well, all the tenants, they're still there, they're in good standard, everything's fine.
We have the normal ups and downs that anyone that is operating any type of complex like this, but we certainly work diligently with our folks, but we're also kind of, at the same time, sir, we're focused on where the facility's headed. And where the facility's headed, yes, it'll be important for folks to pay their bills, but they'll also be getting training and support to understand why that's important in terms of their overall credit rating, in terms of their overall view to their various suppliers, so forth and so on. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is it's not that we're going to let people pay late or not pay at all. It's just that we're also understanding where the facility is headed as well.
Okay, because You know, I just found out the other day that I guess since you're here, I'm not sure, y'all have evicted some tenants out there. And,
Yes, back in January.
yes, and we have a contract, a running contract with them, and have y'all closed it out?
Yes, we did. Back in January.
Did you ever bring some to work?
Bring in operational
I'm
manner.
asking a question, don't
No.
do that to me.
No. Day-to-day operation.
Is that correct, Charlie?
What, correct?
A contract, we had a contract that we voted, we did vote on the contract. And it's kind of like the same as these people, when you was here, we looking around.
No, you started looking, because I was wondering what you were pointing to.
We brought it to the board that we was gonna have to, not let them out of their contract. You recall that? And they had to pay up 6 months, a year.
No, can you give me more specifics?
But that particular thing that he's discussing is there was one company who had signed a lease and decided they were not going to come, and we were given the option whether to enforce that lease or not. But I believe that's probably two different styles of situation for what was going on with the
I just
contract.
figured the contract was a contract.
Yeah. And well,
I don't know.
based on what I've done in the past, and I'm not, I do things sometimes off the cuff, but on what I've done in the past when it deals with tenants that have had issues, sometimes you have to make some moves, you know, and that's probably what happened in January. There were some issues that needed to be taken care of, and it was resolved, you know, and not necessarily, in my opinion, does everything operationally come to the board, you know. I've always enjoyed not having to deal with stuff that we don't have to deal with, and I'm not welcoming anything new. I'd rather do what we're, you know, the meat of what we're supposed to do. And I think that's one of those items that's not for our play.
So if you say we don't have to bring to the board, that's fine.
And I have a question.
I have a question.
Pertaining who?
I still have a question.
Oh, well, you better talk up.
I was trying. I'm so quick. So there's two things for this the revenues that it says I have a question about. First, as far as revenues, I do not see Lamar State College on here. Is there a reason that that's not there? And then secondly, for expenditures in the month of March, I see 2 energy bills. Is there a reason for that? That's all I have.
Let me address the second question. Energy had missed an invoice, and we caught it. It wasn't, no, don't look at me like that. Because if we hadn't, they would have eventually caught it and probably charged us double in interest and so forth and so on. So they had missed one, and so we doubled up in the month of March to get caught up. But the averages are still in sync with what we budgeted. In terms of Lamar,
I'll overlook it. For the record. Yes, I did.
and let me look into that, sir. Because it's just a flat contract, I know that sometimes our finance folks have had trouble extracting that from the city because they're just looking at the one overall number instead of breaking it down on a month-by-month basis. But we can do that on our end. So, good catch, and I'll look into that.
Thank you, Derek. Those were 2 of my questions. Okay, now I do have another question. okay, it's quite obvious that our revenue, even if we have the warrant there, is gonna be somewhere, let's say, $70,000 or so. And that's up to this point. Our expenses are currently sitting at $162,000. Okay, is that something that we anticipate is going to continue to happen? Because right now, we're what, 6, 7 months into the budget, and we're at a $100,000 deficit on the building. I understand what everybody is saying when you guys tell us that's an incubator, and that's money that we're basically going to be pouring into the community, because we're basically using a lot of our resources for training and for giving the people the skill set that they need to be successful when they leave the press building and go out there and start their own business. But at the same
And one little caveat to that, part of the quid pro quo is that their business will be in Port Arthur, specifically downtown, as you and I discussed.
Okay. So at the same time, the question becomes, okay, strictly from a financial standpoint, because that's what I'm looking at. Okay, are we looking at a $200,000 loss in that building every year?
No, ma'am.
Or is that something that, as we go forward, we're going to be able to reduce?
Without going too far in depth in open session, a part of those partnerships that I talked about, that I've deployed at other places, there will be entities, and there will be, much like how this facility was constructed, how the press building was constructed, there are funds available, both federal and state, for entrepreneurship, as well as not-for-profits. Certainly you've heard the term angel networks, venture capital, that stand ready to pour into programs like this. So as far as specific numbers, you and I will work towards that, but the short answer to your question is no. There will be an undergirding and a foundation for the overall program. There will be partners that are just as interested in us producing these businesses as we are. With me? Stay tuned.
Okay.
That's all I humbly ask. Stay tuned.
Terry, when will that start?
In terms of the entrepreneur program, like I say, hope to launch in late summer, August, September timeframe. If the good Lord willing, the breakdown rise.
And we'll quit this bleed on the money, you say?
Well, no, not instantaneously, sir, because there's just like anything else, there are startup costs. There's startup to getting the startups underway. There's marketing the program. There is outreach on the program. So I don't want to tell you flat, no, there's not going to be expenditures and then all of a sudden we're going to go in reverse. What I am committing to you is that, again, to answer the treasurer's specific question, will the degree of bleeding henceforth and forevermore? No. No.
Now, one thing on this, I understand the press building, there's people that have called to request offices, and is it saying it's on hold?
Correct. Because of this program that we're trying to get underway. Don't want to be bringing someone in and then imposing upon them, if they do fall into the category of startup, a set of programs that they did not really count on. We also want to vet folks to make sure that we're not getting into a situation where they're overextending themselves, because, okay, we can easily, kick them out, but that's a cost to us too. It's time, I have to have things reviewed. So calling in wanting the space, that's neat and that shows interest. That has to be balanced, sir, with, okay, where are we going with the program, and does whoever's calling fit into that? It is not just outright office space. It may have been where it started a while back ago, but there is a vision for that overall facility that we're now trying to meld to.
Because I did find out today that they simply, they might have talked to you, they talked to somebody who requested 4 offices and was told it was on hold. And also a state representative wanted to go in that building and was told it was was on hold?
Wasn't told by me. As far as Semper, I am in constant contact with those folks, and they are, one of the neat things, and I'm smiling, is that they intend to be one of the primary supporters of the programs that we're putting together, and they're very excited about it. The state representative I can't speak to. I have not spoken to anyone from the state representative's office.
There are also some items that we may be able to look at down the line that are kind of costly that we may be able to omit, that we probably don't need. Don't know if they're under any type of contract or agreement, but just looking at some of these numbers. And the one line item that I'm looking at, if that's something that is, that we can get rid of, that'll really help us as far as the finances in that press building. But I will say this, I believe in that vision of the press building. I know that we anticipated putting some money into it initially to help it as it, got to where it was going. I'm just ready to see it start moving. So I look forward to that timeline in the summer where we start seeing some of the progress. And hopefully, one of these items on here can be eliminated, and it'll make a huge difference in how much we're spending over there on a monthly basis.
Do you want to follow up with me on this? Necessarily calling it out, but
No,
we'll talk.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but what it's labeled as is probably something that we can might be sure to sit on the side.
Okay, fair enough. Certainly don't want to break anything that might be needed for the eventual program, but yeah, let's check. Workforce and youth development. Yeah, okay. All right. We have begun conversations with Workforce Solutions to team up with them going forward on some of the long-standing programs that we have, primarily in the area of outreach and marketing, as well as coupling our resources to make sure that in totality we're providing as best a program, especially as it relates to the youth aspect of the program. So those conversations have just begun. They literally just started week before last, and so we're starting to formulate things. But their leadership and their board, very excited about the prospect of working with us and seeing in ways where perhaps we can lend some help to their programs to supplement them and vice versa. One of the things that they have offered, they have a Workforce Readiness Academy, which is a one-week program that they put youth through just to immerse them in soft skills on their way to being supplemented with technical skills to allow them to be well-rounded when they do step in for these internships in the summer. So we're looking at that as in terms of, again, supplementing the overall program that we presently have in place. As I've mentioned to you, in addition to our Bedrock programs that we have been working with for a long time, we'll also continue in conjunction with Workforce Solutions to look at other high-demand jobs that industries in our city and the region need, so that we make doubly sure that we're getting a good bang for our buck, good return on investment, and that we're placing youth in jobs that are meaningful and that, like I say, are in high demand. I also mentioned to you in my report that one of the things that everyone is having a little difficult time, especially as it relates to manufacturing and industry, is Generation Z. Those folks born between 1997 and 2009, study after study shows that they're not particularly keen on blue-collar jobs these days. Doesn't mean you give up, it just means you have to kind of change your outreach, change your marketing. I did include an article that was written by Forbes magazine on the issue of Generation Z not particularly warming up to blue-collar jobs. Yet at the same time, those trades offer a great deal of benefit. So you've got industries that have a need, a trade that can put food on the table, roof over the head. But again, we have a cohort that isn't particularly interested in filling those. And so trying to bridge that gap is one of the things that this organization needs to be working on, as well as our stakeholders in the educational arena as well as the workforce arena. Did want to just provide some quick updates in terms of our Bedrock programs. Certified Nurses Aid Program, we currently have one student that has been fully certified and is currently working at Cascades, Port Arthur. We have one student that has passed the written part of the exam and will be taking the retest of the skills portion. As a matter of fact, bright and early tomorrow morning, they'll be doing the retesting. We have one student that has completed one portion and is waiting, getting ready to get themselves in a position of scheduling their skills test, and will then retest on the written part after they've done the skills test. And then we have one student who finished just last week, and so we'll be working with them to get them placed as quickly as possible.
One question. Only one student, is just the one student for all category, or is it?
No. One each, I'm sorry.
So the total of 5 students?
Yes, one each, sorry. Should have been clear. On the scholarship program, we received a total of 10 applications and have begun the vetting process to work towards the awarding of the 5 scholarships that have been budgeted for this fiscal year. So that is well underway in the process, and before Secretary Raymond asked, yes, I understand, as I committed last month and the month before, as we redo marketing, we have to, and I'm keen on expanding that, even though it's also the responsibility of our service providers, but if we can come and supplement them and tell a wider world, it benefits the program, it benefits us too. So I wanted you to know, haven't forgotten, gonna get there. And I don't even bother asking Treasurer because she just constantly repeats it. She's not doing patience, so I'm just thankful that this is not so. It's not the money thing. Because she's just going to tell me I don't have any patience.
As
Yes,
far
sir.
as the scholarship program is concerned, do we have any criteria for selecting the students for the scholarship?
We do, sir, and I didn't print it out, but we do. I'll get it to you.
Thank you. And the other question deals with the workforce. When we work with the workforce, are we identifying together in a collaborative effort? Are we trying to identify those areas which say the workforce in the community? Meaning, are they helping to identify the jobs that we're trying to train students for?
It's a collaborative effort, yes, sir. In fact, when we met last week, had big up on the screen the current listing of high demand jobs by rank for our Golden Triangle region. So you put a strategy together for that, but at the same time, in our particular case, we can't leave behind our Bedrock program. So we're trying to strike a balance in terms of going forward. That's some of the programs that we will put together in conjunction with the ISD. So I'm going to be calling upon you for your help as well.
Certainly, we'd be glad to assist. We have some wonderful students. Very
Absolutely.
capable.
And along those lines, sir, one of the things that ourselves and our partners are also going to be focused on, sort of like that Workforce Academy, is hireability. You can have all the technical skills in the world, and if there's a higher ability issue like the soft skills, it doesn't get you very far. So that's another thing that I'll probably be leaning on you on in that area.
Well, I was glad to hear you say one of the initial courses that is offered is dealing with soft skills, because we deal with soft skills. Anybody that comes in who works with our students, we want them to first work with them on their soft skills, because industry has told us that kids need to be prepared with soft skills more than anything else at this juncture.
You got it, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the WRFA program, that 1 week program that you're talking about,
Yes, ma'am.
is that going to be available to participants that we currently have in the program this year, or is this for future use?
We're going to try and get everyone in this year. Look, I know patience isn't the virtue, but do understand the load. And, we got committees and so forth and so on, but the short answer is I'm going to do everything we can to get the current cohort in. And worst case scenario, we miss it, and then we get everybody ready as a part of the advertising and outreach going into next year, that next group will know that that's going to be available. Perhaps even mandatory. That's something we can discuss down the line. Yes, sir.
Really, you answered my question.
Okay. On the CDL program, classes started this morning, or resumed this morning, as a matter of fact. We had 5 residents vetted and ready to start the theory portion of the overall training. So that's moving along. In terms of the youth employment program, we received 30 applications. Have started the vetting process. Just to anticipate you, Dr. Goodwood, there is a criteria. I've made a note to get it to you. And I just have to accept my apology. I didn't think ahead to just have it printed out. So I'll get that to everyone. I'll just send it out to the entire board. Budgeted for 11 participants. Right now we have 3 committed employers. Just go through those real quickly. Road Logistics, they will be taking 5 folks, and they will be covering production, accounting, engineering, administration, and graphics, 1 each in those programs. Team Fabricators right now is looking at taking on 1, and City of Port Arthur Health is looking at bringing on 2. We're continuing to look at additional employers and doing outreach. And as I mentioned, we're starting to do joint outreach with Workforce Solutions to broaden the reach, if you will, in terms of getting the word out on these. But that, as we sit here today, is where the program stands. And of course, Road Logistics really stepping up to, because they're going to take on nearly half of the program. Yes, ma'am.
You dealing with
The other reason I is because you address the criteria we give to all the board members, and I'm like, okay, I guess the committee never going to get the criteria. So I'm just going to wait till the board gets the criteria, because the committee maybe the committee was to get the criteria together for your program. So I'm okay. As long as we get the information, that's all that matters. But I really would like to see, since Dr. Gatewood and Mr. Anderson is really the lead with the program, that Dr. Gatewood will be head to the program. I think Mr. Anderson will get on the committee. So it would be good to add Dr. Gatewood and work together to make sure. I have no problem.
Let's do this, because I'm not comfortable if you're not comfortable. How about this?
Good.
And I appreciate
As long as
that.
we make sure the students are taken care of, I know.
I appreciate that. I'm happy that you're happy. But how about this? I distribute what's in place now. You schedule, and then we use part of that time to review to see if we need to touch up. And if we do, committee will bring that back to the full board for implementation.
Thank you, Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you, Secretary. I appreciate your patience. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for Road Logistics, for those 5 interns, we put the subject matter that they were going to be working in. But for Team Fabricators and Department of Health?
We're still working, trying to get that information from them. I just didn't have it at press time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stokes, I thought, I guess, someone's going out there. The intent was to hopefully keep these jobs permanent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the last one, put out the health department, they're not gonna hire anyone. They might use you, but they're not gonna hire anyone. I can tell you that for a fact. So we talked to Renata about this quite often, and she keeps going back to these people. And it's like free labor. We're just giving it to them, knowing they're not gonna hire them.
Yes, and I appreciate what you're saying. As someone that's just coming into the program, so I'm asking you all to give me feedback. There's no value to any level of exposure.
The idea is, it was twofold, right? So, yes, we want to retain employment for our young people in the city of Port Arthur and give those companies the opportunity to vet candidates without having to pay for that training. But secondly, and maybe more important, is the experience that the young people get. Because I don't know if anybody ever had to look for their first job, and I think we all have. If you don't have anything to put on your application, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't make it past anything. So the experience that they receive is beneficial as well. So it is twofold. I understand what you're saying, because yes, we want to make sure that we retain as many as we can. And Robo Logistics has done a wonderful job retaining our kids and wanting to retain our kids. I'm so glad they're going to take 5 of them. But also on the other side, the experience is very key, because for our young people, going back to soft skills, going into the workforce with adults for the first time, it's a learning experience. So sometimes there's a curve that we need to try to help out. So the experience is key as well. I just wanted to say that.
Let me ask a question. These students that we're talking about, do they have to be still in high school, or can they have graduated from high school within, say, like June, May? Okay, so that answers my question. We have kids already, I heard you mention Cascade. We have kids at Cascade, at least 37 kids almost not working, but going there to get experience. So, and they're going to take the test after they gain 1,000 hours. So they could be eligible for employment as well as bring that experience to the table. So that's a good point.
I think Cascade is the department that we focus on, basically, right? Most of the students come from Cascade. Am I correct? Okay.
And I used the word exposure in terms of value. Maybe I should have used the word experience, and that's what I concur that there's some benefit to the experience that you receive, but certainly the goal is long-term employment. Any other questions on the program? Any update? Okay, that gets us to status of incentive applications. Next page of your report, lost track. The next page of your report after the YEP update currently have 3 applications that are in our consultant's financial review. That's American Made Fabrication, AG's Management Services, and SIP Services, LLC. Moving them through the process and the program as quickly as possible. Back on the 19th of April, spent a couple hours with the Spindletop team on site to update them and to go over a draft set of potential terms for an incentive agreement. Before I could even dive into the meat of things, they informed me that they were going to, they basically wanted to reapply, if you will, because they're going to do a different set of capital improvements. different from what the original application was based upon. I told him, well, you certainly have that right. Nothing has been signed. You're basically saying that you appreciate what was brought, but you're going to basically walk away from that, and you're going to make a fresh application based on your fresh information, which will then just go back into the hopper for consideration. So we are awaiting that. I suspect a lot of information can be just lifted in terms of principles and so forth and so on. But whenever that gets to us, it'll get to you for consideration. Who knows? It may come back to the exact same thing that was originally settled upon, but it will at least be based on the current information.
Okay, on the Spindletop Concrete Incorporated company, have they not sold that company? So if it's a new company, it would not be reapplying, it would be applying. So is it still Spindletop Concrete? I heard it was sold, and if that's the case, because I kind of did research, and that means that it won't be reapplying. The new company will be applying.
Well, let's not, I want to get what was semantics. The entity that is based at that site doing that work, whether they do a different DBA or go under the same name, that will be their decision. That entity will be making a fresh application. So whether that's a reapplication or a whatever term, it gets to the same thing. It'll be a fresh thing for this organization to consider.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. On the American-made fabrication, Nature's Management, they say it's currently under financial review. Okay, can somebody tell me, in terms of the old system that we were using, what phase is that incentive agreement is? Is it phase 1, phase 2, or are we approaching phase 3?
As far as Spindletop Concrete.
The first one, American-made fabrication.
Okay, American-made fabrication, Nature's Management, and SIP, those are all in what we would consider phase 2. So phase 1 came before you all along with their letter of intent to move forward. As far as phase 2, so now they are in full application phase where they're gathering their financials and having an analysis done by our technical advisors in DC.
All right, now on the Spindletop Concrete, okay, not to belabor this point, but down there at the bottom of your report, you said that the board of directors had previously approved an incentive amount. And I don't remember that actually being the case. I remember when we had a conversation about it, Charlie was going to work on an incentive to take to him, but the board has never seen that. So I'm asking a question about that. I'm trying to figure out how I got lost in that system.
No, you didn't get lost. Again, bad grammar on my part. And you just articulated a number that had been brought to you that was then going to be turned over to create terms and conditions. And before we've gotten to that point, something has changed on the area. So I want to look at it in terms of the word approval is the wrong word. Brought to you for FYI is probably a better way that I should have put it. Thank you. And then just a couple of miscellaneous items in terms of activities. I was fortunate enough to get a chance to attend the groundbreaking for Energy's Orange County Advanced Power Station. It's going to be a 1,215 megawatt combined cycle power facility. That will be generating enough power to power 230,000 homes in the Golden Triangle. Expect to bring that online in 2026. And the other day, Sempra/Bechtel/Port Arthur LNG had an open house /kickoff that was held over Sabine Pass at the high school. And this was their opportunity to provide subject matter experts that were basically manning different booths around the gymnasium where where folks could come in and get specific questions answered in a variety of areas relative to the overall project. And then the last page, just some upcoming events for you to be aware of. Most of these probably already on your calendar, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of them.
Can you give us a time for small business annual awards?
I think it's 16 and 8. It's an English.
6:15 and 8. Okay, and then I have a question. Okay, we have the Port Arthur Community Credit Union that's currently in our press building. And they had a soft opening back, I think it was on April the 2nd, and I'm picking this up off their Facebook page, so if I don't get the dates correct, just excuse me. But from what I understand, it appears that they're going to have a ribbon cutting, okay, at that location on May the 3rd at 11 o'clock. I think it's the 3rd. Okay. And I'm really surprised because it's in our building, it's our customer, and we haven't communicated that to the board. Therefore, it has not been included, I know, in my calendar. And I don't know about everybody
I
else.
must apologize for that. You're giving me information.
The staff and the board members are invited.
I would ask you, if by chance you hear these things and you haven't heard them from me, feel free to call me. Maybe I'm running around, my head fell off trying to get other things done, but maybe I missed it. And don't want to be lacking. So don't always wait for me or Jim. If you hear something and you haven't heard it already, feel free to shoot me an email. We'll look into it. And Mr. President concludes my report.
Unfinished business is nothing. Consent agenda is nothing. Non-consent, number 1, review, discussion, and possible action regarding the terms and conditions of an economic incentive for Project Lucky Global. Can I get a motion?
That's what we'll
Got a motion and a second, bring to the floor. Any comments? Questions?
Okay, I have a question. Okay, can somebody give me an overall review of exactly what Project Lucky Go is and what our incentive is going to be to them?
Actually, President LeBeau, we would like to ask that we table or move both items 1 and 2 into executive session.
Not tonight? Okay. Item 1 and 2 will be moved into the executive session. All in favor?
Are we gonna do that? Are we doing that now? Okay, so, we need to, is it economic development, 551087, is that the purpose? Okay, so we need to announce this for economic development and then the time. After you get the motion.
When it happens, okay, good. Okay. Third item, review, discuss, and possible action regarding the terms and condition of an economic incentive vessel cleaning LLC, remediate vessel repair. Can I get a motion?
I'm removing that particular item because of the nature of who is the owner of it. So I'm removing it.
Which one?
One, two, and three.
Yeah, one.
Okay, number 3 is the one she's talking about. Spell it out.
Can I ask the reason?
Well, because Stone Top Concrete, even though he's saying it's an entity that tied them together, it was the original Stone Top Concrete. So I understand it's not Stone Top Concrete anymore. So it's going to be some agreement items.
That's not correct, is it? Item 3 on my page says, vessel cleaning.
No, I'm not talking about
Number
concrete.
2, sir.
Number 3. When you say you're going to apply, they're going to apply for the operation. So,
No, it's okay, I got hers. Okay, number 3, okay. So number 3, review, discuss, and possible action regarding economic incentive with Spindletop Concrete. Ms. Beverly Raymond. Delete or removed. Okay, it would be number 4, I guess, the next one. Review, discuss, and possible action regarding the terms and condition of an economic incentive vessel cleaning LLC, DBA vessel
And
number.
that would be moved to executive session.
Okay, number 4, discuss regarding. Okay, that's okay. Regarding the backup invoices, documentation from the CEO reimbursement for move allowance requested by myself. Can I get a motion? So what we do on this, attorney?
A motion and second it dies.
So it died. Okay, where's the next one? Okay. Review, discussion, and possible action regarding the PADC Chief Executive Officer 6 months valuation performance. Can I get a motion?
I so moved. Second.
That's what I say. I got a motion and a second. Is there any questions?
As I understand it, we don't want to move this to executive session. We want to have this in the open session. Okay. How about that? Just want to be sure. Who wants to start? Errol, you can start first.
Yeah, well,
Your evaluation, your formal evaluation.
right. Yeah, sure. Based on the scores of the CEO's performance evaluation, I make a motion to put the CEO on a 60-day performance improvement plan, and the board will reevaluate in 60 days. Can I get a motion
What is that based on?
based on those numbers?
So, question. This document, for clarity's sake, CEOs receive a copy of this?
He will. In fact, he might have. Yeah, she gave it to him.
I mean, prior to us doing evaluation.
No.
He didn't know he was being evaluated on.
You should have known the criteria.
Right, yeah,
It came off of the actual government website.
right.
Did nobody communicate it to you?
Which is pretty though, I must admit, like they call it.
So what
First I've ever seen it.
So,
we evaluated him.
yes, but he has to be given that, yeah, what he's being evaluated on, or we really just wasting our time.
Okay, so Charlie, help us here. Okay, we have two options, as I said. One, we can table it, but if we table it, we can bring it back at another meeting, or we can call a special meeting for this.
However you want to handle it is certainly within your prerogative. You can postpone it to a special date, to a next regular meeting. You can postpone it to a special meeting, however you want to handle it.
And what is that gonna, what is,
Just for clarity. So we can, I'm speaking to Charlie, just for clarity. So we can actually evaluate him on a document that we never given to him. I
don't know that I fully understand the question. And it's really, if you mean like this document specifically, I don't know the answer to that question.
Well,
But if you mean, should, Well, it's really legal advice, and I should probably give you a closed session, than, talking about it in open session. So I can get an understanding of the facts, so that I can give you good legal guidance on the question.
Yeah, we can do it.
That's perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna move that to executive session
I mean, one, two, three,
for consultation with the,
and five.
With the attorney.
yeah, with the attorney.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can, at this point, then we could adjourn to go into closed session on all the items. We can do the economic developments first, and we can do the attorney client one last, and then we can come back out. Does that sound appropriate? Okay, so you'll announce each one, or each one we're going to closed session.
Okay, we're going to close session and name them out.
Yes.
Number one, review discussion, that one.
Yes.
Possible regarding, terms and conditions of the incentive for Lucky Gold. Next one, number two, review discussion, possible action regarding the terms and condition of the economic, project, which, speedy mark number two.
Isn't it vessel?
Review discussion, possible action regarding the terms and condition of the incentive for vessel cleaning LLC
That's for economic development.
for economic development.
And then the last one,
And review discussion, possible action regarding the PhD chief executive officer.
for consultation with the attorney.
Responsibility for the term.
Okay, and the time is?
7:35.
Thank you.
Gerald Anderson,
Here.
Beverly Raymond here, Christopher Smith, Helen Clark here, Richard Wyckoff, Jerry LeBeau,
Here.
Melvin Getwood. We have a quorum.
Okay, coming out of the meeting, executive session, review discussion, possible action regarding the report on EDC chief executive officer, 6-month performance evaluation has been put on. Oh, I'm sorry. 8/22, 8/21 or whatever. Not put on hold, postpone until we get a date within 2 weeks. Can I get a motion?
I saw.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passed. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
No.
No, he said
No action. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It was very home.
Oh, man, stretch it out.
I hope we get better